And a few more seconds to get here. We do have a fabulous response to this, but people will join us and we have some things to talk about before we get started. My name is Rita Wolfson. I am the founder of Financial Social Work and the Center for Financial Social Work, and a very proud national NASW pioneer. With us is Eric Sopp. He does all things digital and technical for the Center for Financial Social Work, and we appreciate his hard work on our behalf. So, this is our guest speaker. If you've heard her before, you know how fabulous she is. And if you haven't, you're going to find out when you see what she's sharing with us. I'm going to ask Dr. Hardy to introduce herself when I turn over the presentation to her. But first, let's see, I have to go ahead the other way. All right, so just some housekeeping is that if there are any messages for you, they would be in the chat box. But we will use the Q&A you see down there. Type your questions into the question box. We'll answer as many as time permits. Our slides are not shared, they're proprietary, but you will receive the recording of this training. It will be on website, Facebook, and YouTube within a few days. And Eric will be the one making sure that that gets out to you, to each of you, so you have the recording if you'd like to share it or go through it again, because you're going to learn so many great things here. There is one CE for this webinar, thanks to Valerie Arendt, the director of NASW North Carolina, and a special lady and friend in my life. And I'm inviting you to stay tuned because we actually have a holiday gift for you. Maybe early, but I think you're going to like it. So stay with us till the end. And now it gives me great pleasure to turn this over to Valerie Arendt, the Executive Director of the National Association of Social Workers in North Carolina. Valerie.
Thank you so much, Rita. My name is Valerie Arendt. I'm the Executive Director of the North Carolina chapter of the National Association of Social Workers. And as always, I would like to thank our longtime NASW North Carolina member, Rita Wolfson, for her constant support of NASW. And shout out to Rita, as she mentioned, she was named an NASW Social Work Pioneer in 2022 for being the founder and the pioneer of financial social work. So we are honored to continue to support Rita and financial social work in educating thousands and thousands of you all behavioral health professionals throughout the year. So I'd like to take this moment to say that I shouldn't have to tell you how important voting and the upcoming election and every election is. Social work is a political profession. The NASW Code of Ethics states that social workers should engage in social and political action that seeks to ensure that all people have equal access to the opportunities they require to meet their basic human needs and to develop fully. Social workers should be aware of the impact of the political arena and practice and should advocate for changes in policy and legislation to improve social conditions in order to meet the basic human needs and promote social justice. Our elected officials make the decisions on how our tax dollars are spent, what public programs are or are not funded, student loan forgiveness, minimum wage, and literally thousands of social justice and social welfare issues that impact all of us. Social work and financial social work is directly related to every single level of government, so there's no room for social workers to say, I'm just not political. This is who we are as a profession. So not only should you vote in every election, but you should be educating others on how elections impact policy and our client populations. So thank you for coming to my Rita talk. So I just want to say thank you again to Rita and Financial Social Work for hosting this important topic and allowing us to continue to support everyone by approving your contact hour for CE today. And I'm so excited for Dr. Veronica Hardy to to teach us again today on all of the amazing work that she does around financial social work. So I'm going to pass it back over to Rita so she can introduce Dr. Hardy. So thank you all so much for your support.
Thank you so much, Valerie, today and every day. Okay, so I like to begin our monthly free webinar with our financial social work affirmation. It goes just for today. I will love myself enough to face my fears, practice self-acceptance, and embrace hope, silence my inner critic, speak my truth, and make peace with myself and with my past. Just for today, I will give myself permission to eliminate toxic people, beliefs, and behaviors from my life. And just for today, I will prepare for a better tomorrow by healing my relationship with my money and with myself. So let me just explain to you a little bit about financial social work. I know that with such a large attendance, some of you are new, and even those of you who are familiar with financial social work, I'd like you to know a little bit about what it is, what it does, who needs it, when, and why. And then you'll understand why we go to such great lengths to sponsor this free monthly webinar. Financial social work is a behavioral model addressing the financial thoughts, feelings, attitudes, beliefs, values, and experiences that drive financial behavior. And it's a behavioral model because until and unless behavior changes, nothing changes. And we define financial behavior as how one earns, spends, saves, shares, and borrows. We all know, if we're on this call, that money is complicated and life is complicated. There is no one or easy solution or fix for either. But at financial social work, we work to reduce the overwhelming feelings of stress, anxiety, shame, and trauma that complicate money, life, and mental health. Financial social work is at the intersection of social work, politics, the economy, gender, racial, social, economic, other able justice, and climate change, along with mental health and financial inequity. And these are the components. This is what we do. We teach how to be all of these things. It's multidisciplinary. We nurture, we engage, we empower. It's so important when it comes to money. So financial social workers are needed now more than ever because of this long and growing list of financial challenges and issues and problems that so many people in this country are dealing with. What financial social workers do is we are agents of financial change. We address money and mental health. We advocate for marginalized groups. We work people to heal their own and their clients' relationship with money and self, creating safe, non-judgmental spaces for learning, processing, and talking about money. We help clients cope, heal, and deal with their money and mental health, and are dedicated to addressing money problems, stress, anxiety, and trauma, committed to gender, social, and economic justice. And we approach money and life from a perspective of healing, acceptance, courage, honesty, and hope. I know that sounds like a lot, but with thousands of graduates around the country and the world, I'm hoping we achieve most of it. So financial social work is about all of the things we've just talked about. Mostly really foundational is making peace with your money and with yourself. So I'm not going to go through all of these. Again, it's a behavioral model that is heart-centered and approaches money and life from a perspective of healing, acceptance, courage, wellness, transparency, and honesty. It begins with the individual, goes to the family, the social environment, the workplace, and the community. And as I just said, we have graduates across the country and around the world. So a simple truth is while no one chooses to have money problems, sadly, we know that many, if not most people do. And that's why so many Americans need financial social work and social workers. They need a trustworthy, reliable professional with whom to process all things monetary, a safe, non judgmental space where they may talk and learn about money. And everyone needs someone and somewhere to share their money secrets and questions, the ones they've been hiding from or avoiding all of their lives. And now I know you're all ready and waiting for your training from Dr. Hardy. So I am going to excitedly and happily turn this over to my very dear colleague and friend. Do you have it, Veronica?
Yes, I do. And let's see. I'm getting our PowerPoint up and ready to go. And please feel welcome to let me know if you can see that on your screen.
We can see it, but it's not in presentation mode. There you go. Perfect.
I think it was just taking a second to switch there. And I'm just going to put on my webcam just for a moment to really get us going. And just to say a quick hello to everyone as well. Again, I'm thankful to be here, and I'm thankful for the Center for Financial Social Work. And I'm excited for this topic today. So hopefully you will certainly be able to gain a lot from this presentation. So I'm just going to switch us to our next slide. Just thinking about how our topic today is about financial mapping and the many benefits of the financial genogram. And I know many of us learned about the genogram while we were in school, but have you ever considered that you could use it to kind of look at your own financial narrative? So that's a lot of what we will be focusing on today. And just on this screen here, Rita has already introduced me. So thank you for that introduction, Rita. And thank you, Eric, for being in our background. I just adore our people who have that technology wisdom. But once again, my name is Veronica Hardy, and I've included my website on this screen in addition to a QR code. And also you can see the name of one of my most recent publications, Impact Your Income, Tips for Financial Wellness and Empowerment. And the foreword is written by none other than our own Rita Wolfson. So just thank you again, Rita, for just taking the time to pour into this project with me, and just adding your voice and everything that you do in regards to this financial social work discipline. You have been, again, like Valerie Arndt said, one of our NASW pioneers. And you have contributed, I believe, more than we could know to this social work profession over the many decades. So what are some of our intentions for today? Again, we are going to focus on that financial genogram and how it can be important in helping us to understand our financial behaviors. So as you sit and listen to this webinar, I want you to think about how you could apply the financial genogram to your own life. But also, if you are providing services to clients, possibly think about how you can use it to support client wellness as well. So in addition to that, we will also include some insights from the book, Impact Your Income. So as we navigate through, you're going to see several quotes or information that was gleaned from the book as well. And hopefully you'll be able to learn how to build your own financial genogram, or possibly just start building it while we're navigating this webinar today. And a strength of the financial genogram is that it may help us to see how history, our financial history, may impact our financial present and future. All right, so let's begin with an overview about what financial wellness means. So from the book, again, Impact Your Income. And this is very much in alignment with Rita as well, with the Center for Financial Social Work, that financial wellness is a way of thinking, feeling, and behaving that we tend to engage in that helps us to experience a sense of comfort with our financial present and our financial future. Financial wellness also includes a set of skills, which I call our toolkit, our financial toolkit. So skills and knowledge about how to navigate our financial landscape. And also another key point about financial wellness is that it is continuous, ongoing, intentional, meaning we need to focus on doing this, making it a part of our practice, and even making it a part of our self-care and how we live and navigate our lives. It is strategic, which means we learn the skills that are necessary to implement. And then it contributes to our whole selves, our physical, mental, spiritual, social, and beyond, our well-being, and can help to enhance our quality of life. Now, something that I generally find important to include in webinars that I provide about financial wellness and financial health is that our financial wellness can be impacted by factors beyond our control. And I know many of us here certainly are social workers, mental health professionals, and persons just within our communities, right? But it's important for us to understand that sometimes there are those situations that can really have a significant impact on our finances. So I want to take a moment to give you some examples of what those situations or experiences might be. So you can see on this slide that it says what lies beneath. What other factors might lie beneath a person's financial circumstances? Systemic oppression is one of them, and experiences in regards to economic inequalities, forms of discrimination that may kind of bar or create barriers for people in pursuing financial healthy practices is definitely one of those factors that lie beneath. Natural disasters, generally unexpected, can have a significant impact and result in factors including grief and loss. And loss can include factors such as loss of a home, loss of a job, depending on the extent of the natural disaster, loss of belongings, what's important to you. So again, natural disasters can lie beneath. Limited opportunities. There might be limited opportunities based on our geographic locations that we are in, limited opportunities in relation to career, jobs, and so forth. Fraud is another one. Prior to this webinar, several of us were having a discussion about identity theft and types of scams that take place that could significantly impact a person's financial standing. And then one more that I've included here, but there are several more, is financial abuse. Financial abuse may happen through powers of control when we think about forms of domestic violence or family violence, when a perpetrator may be using economic abuse as a form of control. Financial abuse can also happen from a parent or caregiver to a child when a child's identity or information is used to open accounts, such as cable accounts or phone accounts, and that child is not aware of it until they possibly reach the age of 18 and have access to their credit report and see the level of damage that may have taken place to their credit. So these are various factors that may lie beneath someone's financial situation. And just on our next slide, if you would like to go deeper in gaining further information about what lies beneath, such as systemic oppression and inequities, there were two previous webinars that took place in 2022 and 2023, and they were both referred to as the intersection of race-based trauma and financial literacy, and they were divided into parts 1 and parts 2. So those two webinars really get into the effects, and I will say the multi-generational effects of historical and intergenerational forms of oppression. So now let's transition into some other issues that may tend to impact our financial circumstances. As you can see at the top of this slide here, it says to count the cost. So let's go into what should we count the cost of? The cost of financial illiteracy. According to reports, financial illiteracy translates into the loss of billions of dollars each year. And that just means there may be lack of or limited knowledge about how to navigate the financial landscape. Now, there's an organization called the National Financial Educators Council. And this organization conducted a study, and from that study, a report was generated called The Cost of Financial Illiteracy. One of the findings from that study is that the average loss amount for adults in the US, and this is 2022, was a little over $1,800. Now, I do have to highlight that for many people, some may think, well, that's not a lot of money. But we have to look at the unique circumstances of each individual, where $1,800 a year is a significant amount of money. In building upon that, looking at an approximated loss for all adults, even those who did not take part in this particular study, the estimated loss of financial illiteracy totals to about $436 billion. So I share this information to really communicate about how important it is to count the cost of financial literacy. And that brings us back to the importance of the Center for Financial Social Work and the amount of information that this organization brings to enhance our knowledge about financial literacy. So next, I have a question for you about kind of what do you think? What would you identify as the top so-called mistake that people make that contributes to financial loss? Just take a moment to look over this list and just kind of capture in your mind, is it luxury spending? Is it overdrafts, identity theft, credit card interest and fees? Or maybe it's fraud. So again, what would you identify as one of the top mistakes, right, that people make that contributes to financial loss? Now, let's go to our next slide and take a look at what they are. Let's start with number 5. What's kind of ranking at the bottom? So you can see that number 5 is coming across as fraud, which results in approximately $5.8 billion of financial loss. Number 4 is identity theft. $6.9 billion in relation to financial loss. Next, number 3 is overdrafts, which is approximately $17 billion in financial loss. Now let's take a look at number 2, which is luxury spending, more so meaning just those things, those goods and services that we want. $64.8 billion. Okay. And then that leaves number 1 for any of you who may have thought, yes, definitely. Credit card interest and fees, for sure. That has to be the top one. $120 billion in loss from late payments and other types of issues that results in interest and fees accumulating. So you'll see at the bottom of this slide is a little quote that says, intentional changes in your habits can lead to major wins in your financial wellness. Intentional changes, and that's what we're going to focus on today. But let's look at just one more study. And you can see here, this is titled Better Money Habits. And this was a study that was conducted by Bank of America, which is one of the larger financial institutions in the United States. This was conducted in 2023. And then a report was generated that was called Gen Z's Financial Priorities, Barriers, and the Path Forward. So let's take a moment to look at some of those findings that were generated from this particular study and report. So one of the initial findings was that a third of the Gen Z population, approximately 37%, experienced financial setbacks. In other words, they weren't able to save like they wanted to or had hoped to. And instead of saving like they planned, they started accumulating more debt they had not considered or planned on. And then another key point in relation to that is a decrease in self-esteem. So this goes back to our definition of financial wellness, that it does involve that thinking, feeling, and behaving, and really captures that emotional piece too. Another key finding from the report was struggles with having adequate savings. And this is a significant amount based on the number who completed the study. 56% said they didn't have enough emergency savings to cover 3 months of expenses. Now, oftentimes, anywhere between 3 to 6 months is the recommended amount for emergency savings. So definitely this 56% is significant. And then one of the final findings, and this is comparing Gen Z women to Gen Z men, that women felt less equipped than their male counterparts to handle their finances independently. So the thought that they may not have been able to navigate their finances by themselves, or to be able to build the skills or learn how to build the skills and actually implement them, and to save for retirement, which is a significant aspect of our financial wellness. Now, so far we've gone through kind of what lies beneath. We've looked at 2 reports so far, so they all included various factors that could impact our financial wellness. But another factor that may impact several of us in regards to financial wellness are those intergenerational messages that we have gained over time about finances. You'll see a quote on this slide, and this quote is directly quoted from the Center for Financial Social Work website, where, as you can see, the mission is about financial health and wellness. And if you visit the Center for Financial Social Work site, the focus goes beyond, as it says here, beyond dollars, cents, beyond the actual money, the tangible money piece. But it goes further into the thoughts, feelings, attitudes, beliefs, and emotions as well that are connected to our financial behaviors. So this goes into that idea of those multi-generational messages that have impacted our financial behaviors. So question for everyone here, are you ready to start engaging in financial mapping? All right, so this is where we kind of transition into, let's do a little hands-on work now and start looking at our own financial histories. And as we do that, I have to give credit to Dr. Murray Bowen, who is credited with developing the family diagram in the 1940s and 50s, and primarily used what was referred to as the family diagram at the time to gain information for study purposes. Now, eventually, the name of the family diagram was transitioned to family genogram. So that's kind of some history around where that comes from. Now, the family genogram, after Dr. Bowen transitioned the name, became more popular through a publication by Doctors McGoldrick and Gerson. And the title of the publication is here, Genograms, Assessment and Intervention, first published in 1985. I believe it is now possibly in its fourth edition, which may have been published around 2020. So again, that's what kind of made it popular. And you will also notice if you conduct an internet search about genograms, that there are multiple iterations of genograms. You might find a spiritual genogram, a cultural genogram, and another type of genogram that you will also find in your search is a financial genogram. And many of us thought, I never knew a financial genogram existed. I hadn't considered applying this to myself. I hadn't considered applying this during client work and to promote client wellness. And now we have this opportunity to have this discussion about it. So just like the genogram, a traditional genogram, the financial genogram is a visual representation. So thinking of a drawing that works to capture a person's financial history and their story across generations, those influences and those patterns that have transitioned from generation to generation. A strength of the financial genogram is that it helps to enhance our understanding of our financial behaviors. Have you ever asked yourself, wait, where did that come from? What is the root of some of these thoughts and some of these ideas and habits that I have? And sometimes we may be able to look back and trace it as far back as childhood, right? So it has here too, there's just a little closing question that says, can you capture a family tree image in your mind? So a little bit about what I'm going to show you coming up on some of the next slides. You're going to see elements of a traditional genogram, but I often invite people to be very creative. It doesn't have to be traditional. If you want to draw a tree and that represents family and generations, and you want to write around that tree, that can represent, say, your narrative, your financial genogram. So this allows you to be very creative. So just a few other points. When you think about, well, what can I explore? How can I really use this to understand deeper about family history and that transition of knowledge? We can explore multi-generational messages, careers, jobs, and roles held throughout the family. We can work to understand, have there been retirement messages? Has anyone ever discussed retirement with me? Has anyone ever discussed savings with me, or how to spend in a safe and healthy way? Were there issues of trauma that may have affected the finances? What are the verbal and nonverbal messages? And then a strength of this is the freedom to be unique, creative, and expressive. So as social workers, we often learn through the use of case scenarios. So I thought it would be interesting to apply this genogram method to a case scenario. So our fictional client or person who we will focus on is named Ellis. And I will just share a little bit about Ellis's background with you. Ellis is a husband and a father who lives in a rural community. At this moment, Ellis is sitting and waiting patiently in a credit union seating area. Ellis just finished completing an application for a small personal loan, about $1,000, to aid in what some may consider minor home repairs, but these repairs are significant for Ellis's family. His name was called. He approached the teller with confidence, but unfortunately, he was met with disappointment. The teller informed him that given his financial situation and his credit history, that his loan could not be approved. The feelings of adequacy, shame, we've often heard the money shame. Ellis recognized this as part of a long history of financial letdowns. He continued to reflect on his ongoing financial struggles. He consistently prioritizes family needs over his own and provides a stable and safe home despite his financial constraints. So he's doing very well, taking care of his family and his household. Now, as social workers, you all may recognize that there may be something there in regards to intergenerational financial beliefs that might be influencing some of Ellis's thoughts or the way he's managing his finances or even his career. So this is where a financial genogram may come in handy. So a few tips if you decide you want to implement this as you're working with your clients and focusing on client financial wellness. You could certainly start this process with your client during the session, probably show examples of layouts of financial genograms, provide your client with some prompting questions to help them think around it, and then they have time as homework to be able to work with it in their own time and space. And then when they come back for the next session, you really work to process it together. What is the financial story that is manifesting from this genogram? So let's go forward with Ellis. So imagine if you are working with a client, or say even if you want to apply this to yourself, here are some questions to start prompting your thinking. How would you describe your relationship with finances? What influenced that relationship or understanding of finances? Reflecting on your childhood, what observations do you remember about finances? And were there any experiences of hurt or struggle related to finances during your childhood? And again, these questions can help prompt thoughts. Now, this is just a general layout, right? That it can be filled in. So again, say if you were working with a client, this could be something that you could show the person, but really encouraging each individual to create according to their own uniqueness. Now, traditionally, as far as genograms, many of you may know that squares represent males and circles represent females, but certainly we want this to be gender inclusive, identity inclusive, and idea and creativity inclusive as well. So allowing and inviting your clients to create it according to how they envision their financial genogram and their family. So now we're just going to start plugging in some of Ellis's information. So at the bottom of this genogram, you can see Ellis is in bold, so we know who the focus is. And right beneath that is just a little bit about what Ellis is experiencing. Feelings of frustration, history of financial letdowns, does put family first, has attempted a loan, but that resulted in disappointment, does contract work within the community, a rural community. Ellis's wife does engage in homeschooling and provides homeschooling to other children in the community as well, and receives income from that. So let's go back a couple generations and start looking at some of the messages in relation to Ellis's financial history. Let's begin with Ellis's father. So you can see with Ellis's father that the father was a contract worker, very handy, great with construction, and worked extensive hours. On the other hand, the father spent quite a bit of the money in relation to alcohol, gambling, and spending time with friends. And that money was spent to the point that at times bills couldn't be paid. And Ellis vividly remembers times when they didn't have heat and they had to use the fireplace for heating purposes or to heat their water to bathe in. Unfortunately, Ellis's father passed away during a machinery accident, and Ellis chose to represent any of his relatives who were no longer with him through the use of a sunflower, again, allowing the person to integrate their own creativity. Now, let's look at Ellis's mother. Now, Ellis's mother, from his observations, had a hard time relying on her husband because of some of the habits that he carried. She did work part-time and she was able to make a dollar stretch, according to Ellis. And she learned also to keep her money a secret because she just didn't know what would happen to it if her husband learned about it. She focused on what was best for the household. She was very spiritual, so always believed that God would provide. Ellis identified her as being of the Christian faith, and she became widowed when the children were in their late teens. So you just notice here, Ellis didn't include his siblings in his financial genogram, just some of the previous generations to look at where some of his messages came from. But certainly anyone is welcome to include siblings. Now let's look at Ellis's paternal grandfather. Hard work is necessary in life was one of the messages. Be smart, always keep most of your money at home. Banks will rob you. The paternal grandfather also experienced discrimination through banks denying him the opening of the accounts. So that's something Ellis remembers about him. Now, a paternal grandmother, her parents worked hard. This was a message she used to communicate to Ellis. So they could all have a great life. They were basically farmers working in agriculture, and they would get up when the rooster got up, basically, and they often shared food with others. And now let's look at the maternal side of Ellis's family. And we can begin with the maternal grandfather. And again, you can see a sunflower is representing the maternal grandfather as well. Worked in the coal mines, which was very hard, never enough money in spite of working all the time, hard to make ends meet. The maternal grandfather would send that message of just do your best with what you got, and died in a coal mine collapse. And then the maternal grandmother did not have the opportunity to finish school and was expected to stay home and raise the kids. She trusted her husband to manage the finances and the house things, so things around the house. But she always wished she had a chance to do what she wanted. And she was widowed when her daughter was a toddler. So that gives you some of the insight about what Ellis recalled in regards to the messages about his family and finances. So just take a moment to just, again, capture in your own mind. When you saw Ellis's financial genogram, kind of what stood out to you? What were some of the messages that were there about finances? Both verbal and nonverbal, possibly trauma and other societal issues or discrimination. So that's something you want to look at next in regards to the financial genogram. To help prompt both yourself and if you want to work with a client regarding this, here are some questions to help think around how to generate themes. Ellis, are there themes or patterns you notice in your financial genogram? If so, what tends to stand out to you? Do you recall your thoughts around these messages when you were a child, a teenager, adult, husband, father? And are there any patterns in your ways of thinking around finances that you may want to change, that you see may be connected to messages that you've received over the years? Again, these are just a few prompts to begin thinking about, how do I start to see what the messages were? And how do I work to understand how they may have impacted my life? Now, in doing that, this is kind of Ellis's insight in reflecting upon those questions and what he had included in his financial genogram. And I'll share this with you. Imagine Ellis is saying, I know there is a lot of trauma and hurt. In spite of working hard, there are still negative outcomes, pain, and rejection. The man took care of everything for the most part, but the women stepped in to push past barriers. They coped during unexpected loss. They carried the spirituality, found ways to share and maintain finances just in case something happened. Having a plan for how to keep your money is necessary. Knowing that things can change in an instant is mind-blowing. They were all survivors who may have had their issues, but they did their best to survive. My hard times helped me to see what could happen. I think I've been living in survival mode and waiting for something bad to happen. I haven't been planning. I don't think I've been supporting my wife in flourishing in her talents or even exploring her thoughts about finances. Maybe she would like to grow in her teaching career, be involved more in the community. I won't know unless I talk to her. I like the work I do, but maybe I can work smarter rather than to the point of exhaustion. I could also explore what else may be out there. I always thought I had to work my fingers to the bone, which means long hours that are keeping me away from my family. I really want to be with them, not just there. So, just in reflecting on this, can you see how some of Ellis's insights reflect the themes that he noticed were passed down from generations about hard work, the woman not having much voice, working long hours? So it seems that Ellis is coming to a point of wanting to change aspects of his situation. Now we're starting to draw to a close. We have just a few minutes left. But with that time, I wanted to show you that, again, there is a diversity of ways that a financial genogram could be drawn. Again, this individual decided to use this notebook paper and just have themselves and their daddy, who's Uncle Joe, on there, because that's the person who sent the financial messages. This individual was adopted by their actual Uncle Joe. Unfortunately, this individual's parents had passed away due to a car accident. And one more example, this individual decided to draw a tree, and they wanted to focus in on one person, the one person who had the most impact, and that was their grandma Leslie, who they missed. So everything you see written around that tree were the messages that grandma Leslie sent. And many of the messages in a financial genogram and intergenerational can be positive, they're strengths. And we might think, how can we integrate those strengths into the life of the client or into our own lives? Again, there are several positives in regards to using a financial genogram. Just to highlight a few, it creates a visual, provides insights about the transmission of beliefs across generations, and it helps us to identify target behaviors or areas for goal development. And certainly for social workers, it can definitely support us in being aware of culturally relevant strategies that are unique to the client, promotes collaboration and enhancing that social worker client relationship, as well as understanding some of the broader familial contexts that are contributing to the client's decision making. So with that, I also wanted to leave you with a few additional resources, books, websites, and articles that focus on genograms and or finances. So you can see several listed here to be able to access. And with that, that brings us to our close. And my hope was that you were able to gain insight from this and will take steps to learn more and possibly even start building your own financial genogram. And again, here is a QR code if you wanted to visit that and the website, or feel welcome to obtain a copy of Impact Your Income. And just a quick thank you again to Rita, again for writing the foreword and for this opportunity to be here today. So I'm going to switch it back over to you, Rita.
Okay, so I was talking away and forgot I was muted. I am now unmuted. So thank you, Dr. Hardy. That was wonderful. And I'm sure everyone here agrees with that. So before we move on to Q&A, I have a few closing thoughts that I always like to share. And remember, stay with us to learn what our gift to you is. So no one chooses to have money problems, but most people do. No one needs to know everything about money, but everyone needs to know certain things about money. And I really, really appreciated what Dr. Hardy shared with us, the cost of $1,800 plus is the cost of financial illiteracy for every American person. And we must do better. We must raise more financially literate young people. So remember that connection between money and mental health. It's huge and it's invasive and it's problematic. So we need to remember the connection and help clients cope with it. There is also a growing amount of suicide around financial problems. Remember that everyone has a relationship with money and with self, and most need healed. Healing your relationship with yourself takes time, honesty, less criticism, and more self love. Healing your relationship with your money is heavily psychosocial. We look at those thoughts, feelings, attitudes, values, and experiences with money. And when we talk about money, we talk about a lot of different things: safety, security, survival. But we are talking about power because those who have the money seem to have the power. And now is the time to invite greater financial health and wellness into your practice, your casework, your client work, your classrooms, your workplaces, your communities, and your conversations. It is a responsibility that we have as professionals, as healers. And most of all, be sure to invite a better financial future into your own life. So we have lots of additional resources for you on our website. Next month, we're doing a free webinar on client-centric strategies for managing holiday stress. And the month after, we are looking at the role of artificial intelligence in finances. We have a client wellness magazine that's great for staying on track with clients. It's a monthly magazine filled with many wonderful prompts. We have a social work directory. We have a partner program that many have taken advantage of and earned discounts for themselves and hundreds of dollars for being part of that program. We have the financial FSW collaborative run by these 4 fabulous women who are dedicated to financial social work. They're all graduates and they're not running sessions this month, but most months They run several sessions for networking, training, collaboration, and they are special to me for sure. And drum roll, please, next year in the spring, there will be a financial social work micro, meso, and macro practice textbook written by myself and Dr. Matthew Schwartz from New York, actually from upstate New York. And I'm blocking it, and I should definitely know. Okay, so our certification of thousands of social workers across the country and around the world includes 20 CEUs from National NASW. It is $695, but our holiday gift to you is a discount using this discount code. And up until September 16th, we are offering you a discount of $225. And then if you miss that date, $200 and so on. So our closing slide. Eric, do we have any questions? We have a few minutes so we can answer them.
That's right. I've been browsing. A lot of it is helpful chat messages during the presentation. So if anybody has so many questions, please type them into the questions box, and we will do our best to address them here shortly.
Well, that's unusual. Veronica, anything you want to add to all of the wonderful things you taught?
First of all, I'm thankful. I see almost 700 people were able to join us today, and I know that we'll have several who will be receiving this webinar via email. And just to stress again, I hope that this webinar could be helpful in the client work, the services that you do. Socioeconomic issues affect many of the people who we provide support to or provide services to. So this is a good tool to really help reflect on some of those issues, and also keeping in mind of what lies beneath. So taking that in consideration too. So that those are a few more words that I'd like to add there.
Very good. Yes, and I can comment. Lots of questions about the recording. Yes, we are recording. It will be emailed to you on Monday. You'll be able to access and watch the recording for free. And the CEU for today's training will be emailed to you shortly. So be sure to check your inbox, check your spam folder for those items. Now, I do see a question in here if we still have time.
Second, Eric, let me remind everyone, download the CE as soon as possible, because we don't have a place to keep it on the website. So in 2 or 3 or 4 months, when you realize you didn't download it, we're not going to be able to help you. So please download it as soon as possible. Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Right. Are there any limitations to financial mapping? And let's see if there was another one here. Are there any particular circumstances that you have found where this approach is most effective?
So limitations, I'll just say from my own experience, I haven't come across particular limitations. I would just say be cognizant if certain aspects of the discussion may be triggering trauma thoughts. So at that point, you may want to transition at least the discussion from the genogram to what that person may be experiencing in the moment. So kind of resetting, refocusing in that moment. And areas where I might find it to be most helpful. I think when someone is seeking a change, so when they want an adjustment in their life and may not realize how finances may have a role in their ability to access that adjustment, I have found it to be very helpful during those particular periods. And when I say adjustment, it could mean career change, it could mean wanting to purchase a home, rent in a certain community, things such as that. And then, well, what shifts can we make in the finances to help to make that happen?
I also wanted to point out that Dr. Hardy mentioned her previous two presentations, and those recordings are on the website, and they were just beyond description. You can learn so much from them. Veronica, can you give the titles of both of them?
Yes, they're both called race-based trauma, the intersection between race-based trauma and financial literacy. So again, those two presentations go into forms of systemic oppression across generations as well. And I'll kind of piggyback on what Rita said. Again, I'm an educator and I like to integrate these webinars into courses that I provide to whether it's social work or counseling students, for students to gain even more insight about this component, the socioeconomic component of a client's life. So again, that's just another way that you could use these webinars as tools for teaching.
I also wanted to point out, Dr. Hardy, I'm sorry, I meant to put the link up here. I interviewed Dr. Hardy on her wonderful book, which is available if you took a picture of that code, her QR code. It's available on Amazon, and it has wonderful information that could be helpful to you and to your clients. Anything else for us, Eric?
Yes, if I wanted to begin to focus on adding financial mapping and groups to my practice, what baby steps can I start with?
I would say, you know how we often start with ourselves. So possibly starting, like practicing it with yourself first and just seeing how that feels with you, so you can kind of empathize with your group participants. And another baby step, like was done in the webinar, have different types of images, different types of examples of what that could look like, but also providing a definition of what financial wellness means and what financial literacy means. So being able to give that as a foundation of all of this. So those are three areas that I would say might be some good baby steps.
Great. Anything else?
I will continue looking here. Let's see, a lot of great feedback just on the presentation overall. Very positive feedback. Here's one. Is this beneficial for families who are receiving services as a part of CPS mandated services?
Ooh, I could say this would be a great tool to get more insight about how the family themselves are using their money. But if we reflect back on Ellis's, the first person who was kind of written about for the financial genogram, or who we started with, was Ellis. So to reflect on some current behaviors, some strengths as well, and what the situations are now, and then reflecting back through generations and situations that may have taken place. So that point of starting with who may be sitting in front of you first and exploring some of the habits first, and then transitioning through intergenerations. And something else I want to stress, it's who the person considers as family. Family is not always blood relatives. So again, who the person considers as family for their financial genogram.
Great point. Okay, maybe it's time to finish this up. Dr. Hardy has been so generous with her time. If Valerie Arendt is still here, I thank her for the CEU. I thank all of you for your time. Dr. Hardy, you already know that I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back next month on the second Thursday of the month, and I'll actually be doing the training on client-centric holiday tips help clients avoid debt stress. Thank you. Have a beautiful rest of the day, and we hope to see you soon. Bye now.